Victoria, can you send Ellen Brzezowski the link to our meeting? You don't mind just resharing the agenda as well? We don't see the agenda, just in case you're trying.
Sorry, I just had to email Ellen the link. Okay. Is that good?
Perfect, thank you so much. So if everyone can just go around and just introduce themselves, and if you can tell us a little bit about what you have been doing this past month, that would be wonderful. And then that is the time to at least promote any upcoming events. I'll pass it on to Gillian.
Hi, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Wow, this day's gone by fast. I recognize many of you. Thanks for being here. We've had a lot going on. Again, we're a very small organization. I have amazing volunteers. One of the great things that we did last week was an event called The Night to Shine Your Light, in honor of World Suicide Prevention Day. And I have to say it was amazing. Kirsten, if you want to jump in at all, it was co-hosted by Trumbull EMS and TPOD, Trumbull's Prevention Partnership. We didn't expect a lot because we put it together rather quickly, but it turns out it was a really important event. We had at least 3 families there that had just had a major loss to suicide, and so it really turned into a special space for people to grieve, but also promote suicide prevention awareness. Kirsten, do you want to say a few words about that event?
First, I want to thank you, Gillian, because you really spearheaded that. Although, Gillian mentioned we did think it would be small. And at first, I think we thought, well, we had about 30 registrants, which seemed great, but we counted, we had over 80 people there. So I thought that was fairly successful for a first annual event that was put together fairly quickly. It was really tremendous. It was really well done. It was a difficult event, obviously, but I think it was a really comprehensive event. We handed out information as well. And I think it just really connected people, and it really, I think was the first, well, it wasn't the first step. It was an important step in helping end the stigma around talking about suicide. So it was tremendous. So I just want to thank Gillian and Trumbull EMS. And we also had another organization called Glorious Recovery there. And she spoke a little bit. So it turned out to be a really great healing event, and an event that really allowed the community to come together. So it was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen. And it was unfortunately very timely. We've had at least 2 recent young adult suicides in this area, and those families were there. And that just goes to show us that the timing was important. And we had storytelling, a little bit of storytelling. I think we'll probably end up putting a committee together next year for this event. We called it our first annual. And anyway, I've got other things going on, but that's what I have for the month. I think you're going to circle back around to me. I'm not sure, but okay. All right. Thank you.
We'll start with next person, Ellen, if you don't mind just introducing yourself, and then if you're doing, what are you doing around Suicide Prevention Month? if you
Hi,
are.
sorry I'm late. Ellen Brzezowski, Greenwich Together, Kids in Crisis. So we've been doing a lot of just posts on social media for Suicide Prevention Month, trying to share what the Hub is doing and the QPR trainings and just information about that, as well as for National Recovery Month. And we will have a meeting, our LPC meeting is on Monday. So we'll be talking about that again at the meeting also. So we are doing a youth mental health first aid training with Greenwich Hospital, and Kids in Crisis is providing the trainers for that, but that won't be till November. So it isn't during this month, but it is coming up, so.
Sorry, I have to mute because my husband and baby should be waking up soon. Next, Steve. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Is it me, Steve Bogan? Yes, I'm pretty good.
Yes, you, Steve Bogan. Please introduce yourself and just let us know what's happening.
Okay, yeah, I'm Steve Bogan. I'm sorry I missed your event last weekend, Gillian, but I tried to make it. I think it was a great thing. But I'm with Will to Live Fairfield Partnership. Will to Live is a foundation where John Troutwine, who's a co-founder of the foundation, comes out and speaks and puts a positive spin on a very difficult subject. John he ended up playing for the Boston Red Sox, and his son took his life by suicide 10 years ago. And we had a big event last year at Sacred Heart and Greenfield Hill Congregational Church in Fairfield and some other venues. And we're planning for John's return to speak to the community again. So we're looking for December for that. As far as what we've done this month for Suicide Awareness Month, we started with the FCAC, the Fairfield County Interscholastic Athletic Conference. The sports league has, they had a leadership conference, and all the schools in the conference are gonna roll out a Life Teammates. That's John's message, Life Teammates. They're gonna have a Life Teammate Award for each school. And that's kind of what we launched this month. So we were at the FCAC Leadership Conference, and we launched the Life Teammates Award. So that's what we did.
That's great. Hi, Valerie. Are you able to talk? Perfect.
Sorry, yeah, I'm being kind of involved in something here, so I'll be in and out. But Valerie Babbage, Coordinator of Psychological Services for the Westport Public Schools. We are off to a much better start in the schools than we were last year. Regarding suicide prevention, at the start of each year, we do have a series of training modules that our staff and administrators all complete, and one of them is on suicide prevention. So providing basic facts, risk factors, warning signs, and then what our policy is in terms of what they do if they have any concerns. So that's always a good thing to have at the start of the year.
Fantastic. Thank you. Kristen?
Hi, everyone. It's Kristen McCarthy-Vahey, co-chair of Fairfield Cares. And I would love to figure out a way next year to partner with Trumbull and Gillian. What an amazing event. But we do the recovery day that's just about 10 days before. So I'm wondering if, just throwing this idea out there for next year, if we do it more in partnership or regionally, then we could do the recovery day together in Fairfield, and we could do suicide prevention, and we could, more actively promote. But it was amazing that you guys did that event. We also, like Ellen said, have been sharing information on social media, and the hub information that's been coming out has been phenomenal, and passing that along. Wearing my legislator hat, actually 2 other legislators and I are going to be partnering with Tom Steen to offer a QPR. Well, Tom will do the training, but we'll be trying to promote it and just help other legislators also be more aware of what's happening. In Fairfield Cares, I know Kathy, our coordinator, has been in touch with Wakeman Boys and Girls Club to schedule prevention or QPR training with them. And we're looking to this year, you know, roll out some more training. So it's a more active goal, and I think will be ongoing, not just this month, but more a part of our conversations.
Perfect, thank you. Amy?
Get video. I am so on Zoom. Okay, that's the best I can do apparently. Social services is open.
You just put yourself back on mute, Amy.
Okay, so I hit the wrong thing. Fortunately, I caught it that time. Anyway, social services is opening up its has opened up the building. I think I just figured out. Has opened up the building to seniors, and we're having people come in now. So hoping that in the future that we could actually have a presentation for our members. We have had 2 presentations of QPR for social workers. And next month, we hope to have a presentation for the transportation, which is, you know, helping us get the kinks out. I had a question for you, Gillian. I wondered if there was, when you said storytelling, is that it's just not a term that I've heard referenced in, you know, in our talk. So I just wondered, is that a technique or is it literally storytelling?
So basically, we lined up all of our organizations and everyone said a few words. The first selectman said a few words. And then we also had a young adult who is part of my young adult committee. I have a meeting once a week, a live meeting on Zoom. And she stood up with her service dog and told the story of her struggles in honor of World Suicide Prevention Day. And, you know, it was fairly brief, and it you know, we made sure that it wasn't triggering in any way. And we said the suicide prevention hotline and text line several times. But it was kind of her saying that she was glad to be there. And again, the event turned out to be a lot more emotional than we all thought, but we were prepared. So that's what I was referring to. When I like to call it storytelling, because I think sharing everybody's story is the most valuable thing that we can do. So that's what it was. Again, we had therapists there. We mentioned the numbers several times. It turned out to be, you know, again, we ended up having families come that had very, very recent suicides. And we made sure that it wasn't just we didn't realize, obviously, but we made sure it wasn't a vigil just for individuals. Again, it was to honor World Suicide Prevention Day and talk about suicide prevention awareness. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thanks very much. And I can only imagine the impact that had on those 2 families.
Yeah, it got to me. Obviously, I am a survivor of suicide as well. Again, I walked away saying that was just an amazing space for us to, you know, share in our journeys, but also every family, obviously, once you have that kind of a loss, really does want to make sure and get the word out that, you know, that we talk about mental health, mental illness, and suicide prevention.
Thanks. I didn't mean to derail the introductions and the updates.
This is an open group, everyone. If you have a question for somebody that just, you know, talked about an activity or anything, please. This is very informal. If you don't know who I am, I'm very informal. So no, please ask away. Kirsten.
I'm Kirsten Nauman. I'm the program coordinator with TPOD, Trumbull's Prevention Partnership. We already spoke about the vigil that we co-hosted. We've also been sharing posts and resources and warm lines and hotlines on social media for Suicide Awareness Month. We're doing a Narcan training. We aren't doing a QPR with that, but we do have some QPR inspired slides that we are going to include with the training. That will be the end of this month. We've also started a discussion about offering QPR. I'm a QPR trainer now, and we'd like to offer it through our community partners to our community members. So offering it at town hall, through social services, for staff at Parks and Rec, things like that, the YMCA. And most recently this week, we started a conversation with the superintendent and the assistant superintendent and our director of PPS here in Trumbull to talk about really infusing suicide prevention into the health curriculum. We don't have a director of health that really oversees it at a district level. All of the health directors are sort of in their own little silos in the middle school, in the elementary school, and the high school. So I think that that messaging has gotten lost a little bit. And so we've reopened up that conversation at the town level to try and make sure that we are starting to infuse those messages into the health curriculum a little bit more consistently. So I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Margaret?
And apparently the state has now, I guess, issued new health ed curriculum guidelines after like 15 years or whatever. I don't know if have you guys looked at all that yet?
Now we just had the meeting this week, so we're at the beginning stages, but that's good to know, Margaret. Thank you. I will look for those.
Because I know that stuff's been pending forever.
Mhm.
So, well, I'll go ahead then because I started talking. So, hey everybody, Margaret Watt from Positive Directions. In terms of Suicide Month, a couple things. I was invited back to the New Vance Health System to do a training that I had done for them, that I developed for them last year. So that's Norwalk Hospital, Danbury Hospital, Milford, some hospitals in New York. And what they have that's pretty amazing is a peer support program for medical providers. So whether you're a doctor, nurse, respiratory therapist, anyone working in the hospital, you can get trained to provide peer support to the other staff. And that had started prior to COVID. So it became very important during COVID, and they had me come in last year and again this year to do kind of a really specific focused training around suicide prevention. So that's like an exciting thing to do, because like those guys, here's what I want to say is, last year, everybody was out there like banging on pots and like putting up signs and thanking our essential healthcare workers. And they're like, they've continued to live trauma and they're being re-traumatized all the time. And now they've got like this sort of, people coming in and dying because they didn't get vaccinated, which creates like all these like mental, you can imagine how emotional people might be getting, like angry at people, that like lots of stuff going on for our healthcare workers. So I think we should all be seeing what we can do to continue thanking them and keeping people aware of that. Some other stuff I wanted to share. So I'm doing a QPR on Tuesday morning through the hub for the general public. Allie Kernan, who I think most of you know, who is one of our Turning Point CT staff members, just got trained to be a support group facilitator for the Alternatives to Suicide model. And actually we had her at our internal staff meeting yesterday, walk us through we did sort of role modeled what an Alternatives to Suicide support group is like. So that's a great new skill set to have in the region. The Turning Point CT young adults have recorded 3 different Recovery Month stories this month and published them as podcasts. And then their suicide podcast is being published today. So you can find all of those on the Turning Point CT website, or, Spotify or any podcast channel that you use. I already mentioned that tonight, Allie and I are talking ahead of the Anthony Bourdain film at the SHU Community Theater. But I think the other main thing I wanted to mention is, we surveyed youth in Westport, Fairfield, and Norwalk this past spring. And Norwalk, we were able to include questions about mental health and suicide. And I just presented the results, the data to the Board of Ed Tuesday night, so I'm allowed to start sharing them now. So I just want to say, we don't usually in all these youth surveys, it's too tricky to insert suicide questions, right? Too political. So in Norwalk, don't think this speaks poorly of Norwalk. I think let's assume this is, consistent with probably what our kids are feeling regionally. And it is consistent with national data. So a third of our middle school students and half of our high school students reported depression. 13% of 7th through 12th grade reported suicidal ideation. This was happening at the end of, right at the end of the school year in June. So things had started to open up a little bit from the pandemic. So theoretically, things might have been feeling a little bit more open. 7% made an attempt last year. And with 1% of kids saying they made 4 or more attempts. So I just thank God every minute that somehow we didn't actually have any losses in Norwalk, like some of the other communities, but with that attempt rate, my God. But in particular, we have the data broken down by different, high risk groups. So English language learners, girls, these are groups that are attempting more, kids with IEPs. But the LGBTQ community, which was very large in Norwalk, 29% of the kids identified in the LGBTQ community. So really basically almost a third of our kids, or definitely more than a quarter. And 1 in 5 of them made an attempt last year. So we've realigned all of our work plans for the Norwalk Partnership, the Prevention Coalition, to really have a huge focus on the LGBTQ population. We're also using the data in partnership with Norwalk Acts, because Danique is a co-chair of my Substance Prevention Coalition. I'm a co-chair of her Social Emotional Health Coalition at Norwalk Acts. And so we've literally reoriented all our plans, and so that citywide, we're really trying to bring the community partners together, bring the schools in, work with Triangle, and have a very cohesive plan around the mental health and substance use, especially for that population. So this is all kicking off now. So I'm excited about it, but it's also some terrifying data that I wanted to share.
Absolutely. As you were talking, I got goosebumps just with those stats.
Yeah, I'll just say, I don't mean to interrupt you, Margaret, but I just wanted to reiterate too, in Greenwich, we asked mental health questions. I don't believe we asked the suicidal ideation specifically, but we did ask mental health questions. I don't have the numbers right now, but they were off the charts. I mean, for depression, anxiety, and loneliness, the kids were off the charts. So we are going to focus on mental health as well. But
we used the Search Institute Developmental Relationships Survey in the 3 communities where we surveyed. So one of the things that really showed that makes perfect sense, right, is the kids who reported the poorest relationships with their teachers also had, reported poorer SEL skills, also were at risk on all these other factors, and also were able to sort of link in, kids who said that their relationships with their family or their friends suffered during COVID. I mean, you can just sort of see the whole picture of things that might have been pre-existing, things that were exacerbated by COVID. It's really a call for, in the schools, a lot of relationships development work, that really all the teachers and staff need to be kind of activated in terms of understanding, even if you're a high school teacher and you think your job is to get kids ready to take the French AP, you have to build a community in that classroom. You have to be that trusted adult. You have to make the kids connect with each other. It's just critical to underlie anything. I mean, even they're not going to do well in the French AP if they don't feel connected to anyone at school.
Absolutely. Thank you, Margaret. I have a number here, 685-6432.
It's so good that you remember my number, Giovanna. It's Danique.
Oh my goodness.
I was driving.
Hello.
I'm driving, so I switched to a phone. So obviously, I think that for all of you who are on today's call and based on Margaret's update, like there's tremendous work that we're embarking on, especially for Norwalk. So I think that it's really exciting and meaningful work that we're going to be doing across the community with a lot of folks really trying to increase awareness, ensuring that the school system has the resources and training that they need, as well as really continuing to develop our post-vention plans and really have a strong response to those who may be in crisis and may be thinking of suicide. So I think that's pretty much it. I do want to say that I had attempted last week for World Suicide Prevention Day to host a gatekeeper training. And it just seems like Friday at lunchtime just wasn't the right moment for folks to connect. But I think that what's also encouraging based on this work, and obviously I'm talking to the choir here, but we know that, you know, this work doesn't just happen during the month of September, but will be something that will be a critical piece with really rebuilding our communities and really ensuring that we are giving people the tools and resources that they need to live really productive lives. So I feel like for as much as it was hard to say that nobody wanted to participate, I know that, you know, obviously through the work of the Hub and all of you, that we know that this issue is really getting mentioned and highlighted throughout the region this month too. So very encouraging stuff. So that's my update.
All right. And Giovanna, can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's Ellen. You know, Greenwich is working on their suicide postvention planning. And during this month, instead of having a sort of a whole group meeting together, we are meeting individually with the individual teams, like the behavioral health team, the first responder team, just to try to get the plan moving a little bit. I think sometimes when you meet with the whole group, it gets stuck sometimes. So we're continuing to work on that. And so for the last couple of weeks in September, that's what we'll be doing as well. So sorry, I forgot to mention that.
No problem. Please, I know Demetria is an advocate for you guys. Anytime you need us to be at the table, or Daniela, you know, we're there. All righty. And last but not least, my co-host.
Hi, everybody. I'm Victoria O'Neill. I don't know if I've met all of you, at least virtually, but I feel like I've emailed some of you or have some sort of connection. But I'm Victoria. I'm an AmeriCorps Prevention Corps member. I'm currently serving at the Hub, and I've kind of been brought on just to kind of assist Giovanna with anything she might need in relation to this, the Regional Suicide Advisory Board. So it's nice to see you guys.
All righty. So next, let's just have some state and regional updates. I'll update everyone on CTSAB, and for anyone that does attend those meetings, if I miss anything, which is not going to be a long update, if I miss anything, please jump right in, okay? So the last couple of months, CTSAB has focused speaking engagements. One was the topic was a deaf perspective of mental health and suicide. And I do have that PowerPoint. I actually just got it this morning, so I will pass it on to everyone just to see what that was about. And I really appreciated the PowerPoint presentation, because we don't necessarily always think about the deaf, right? And how they are a population that we don't serve as much. So it was nice just to get some ideas of how we can include, or at least reach out to those that are in that population. I'm also thinking about, in the near future, possibly having them present at our Regional Suicide Advisory Board, just to have a better understanding of what that means and how we can include them. Because again, they may identify as being hard of hearing or deaf, but they do also have mental health issues and suicidal ideation. So we definitely want to include them. Another topic that, of course, CTSAB is always now talking about is the 988 rollout. I know we participated in the focus groups and a lot. I was instrumental in telling Andrea and CTSAB how folks having a limit of 20 people per focus group was just not enough. And a lot of Region 1 was upset that they couldn't attend. So they added a survey option for those to really focus and be able to hear everyone's voice. So that rolled out. It was really nice. They got a lot of information. They continue to really streamline what that looks like for next year. The rollout date is July 2022. Andrea and oh my goodness, I forgot his name. Oh Lord, DCF. Tim Marshall. He would be so upset with me right now if he knew I forgot his name. Andrea Duarte and Tim Marshall presented just last week on the 988 and why Connecticut needs it. And my anticipation is Andrea will also be presenting that PowerPoint to every regional suicide advisory board in Connecticut, and most likely be around December, January time. They continue to have their Suicide Connecticut initiatives. They revamped their website. Has anyone or everyone gone on their website to check it out? It's really nice. It's clean, easy access. They have a materials page where you have all of the photos of what they have. I do want to just point out that they have the ads for the first responders to leave the numbers of resource numbers for someone that for a suicide loss survivor. They also have the Columbia sticky pad for providers as well, which they haven't said anything about, but I was on there trying to get some materials for this month and I stumbled upon it. I did order about 12 to 15, so I will be sending that out very shortly to many of the local prevention councils. We are working on at the hub just gathering a box of goodies for all of the local prevention councils, which will be nice just to highlight some of the things that you can get. Another highlight or update is Andrea talked about how the adult mobile crisis is soon to gonna be 24 hours, 7 days a week. They are working on hiring new clinicians for second and third shift. So I'm hoping, they said around January should be the start date. So hopefully cross our fingers. I think this is fantastic. I know Margaret has been advocating for that for years, right? And our priority report 2 years ago, I remember talking about it. And this priority report
I'll just give her 1 second, and then if she doesn't come back, I'll fill in for her.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're
Now, yeah.
Oh, I apologize. All I said was I'll keep everyone up to date. Of course, it says my internet connection is unstable. I love it. I'll keep everybody up to date on what happens with the adult mobile crisis 24 hours. I am meeting with Alicia Feller next week to kind of talk about her initiatives and what's happening. She mentioned in one of our meetings that she's been working with Bridgeport Police Department and possibly getting a social worker embedded in the department, just like Stanford has one. So, and what I'm hearing from Stanford is they're doing a really great job and calls have been reduced and they are really helping the community at large seek services before the crisis happens. So Bridgeport's talking about it. So I'll let you guys know more about my conversation with Alicia in the near future.
Giovanna, when you talk to her about that, because if for region 1 mobile crisis to go, adult mobile crisis to go 24/7, they will be hiring. They'll have to hire, right, or assign someone. So just like put it on her radar, like that they have to make it a priority to always have a Spanish speaker available, because they have often, I mean, for years, like they would have, mobile crisis would be like 2 people for the whole region and nobody would speak Spanish. And it cannot be that we don't have Spanish speakers on the adult mobile crisis team in this region.
Yes, no, I totally agree.
Like, I know she knows it's a need, but like they clearly have not made it a prerequisite and it needs to be at that level, right?
Yes, and I'm hoping that's going to be we're going to be talking a little bit about that, and that was on my mind as well. We were supposed to meet yesterday so that I had a great update for you today, but she got really busy and COVID cases were happening at the hospital, so she couldn't, she had to reschedule. But I will let everyone know about that. And that's all my updates I have for CT-SAB. Anybody else want to jump in that attended that I may not have said that you want to bring up? Okay. Updates of with AFSP, Danique?
All right, so obviously it's September, so AFSP Connecticut is right at the beginning of walk season. I don't have the complete walk flyer in front of me, but I'll send it to go along with today's recording, just so you not only have a snapshot of, obviously the walk here in Fairfield County, but also what's happening throughout the state. And I think another interesting point that I just want to highlight just got released. So this is like breaking news. AFSP National is now releasing a new program, Finding Hope Guidance for Supporting Those at Risk. So through a lot of our conversations, both in leadership as well as at our nationwide conferences, we have been really talking about identifying gaps within kind of the work of AFSP and where we can help better support folks. So this is a new program that's going to fill the gap of really providing education to friends, families, and others that are interested in learning more on how to support someone who's struggling with their mental health or suicidal thoughts and attempts. So this is the press release as of today. So it'll be very exciting to be able to start to implement this statewide and to be able to have this as another additional tool for families. So I think that are probably like the big AFSP news. And I saw this morning that the hub had sent out, being a part of the walk team for our October 24th Fairfield County Walk, much appreciated. So obviously, as with, I think just the way that we've had to live the past year plus, it is still an in-person opportunity, but obviously, we are always talking and thinking about how to ensure that we keep people safe. So thank you all for potentially wanting to sign up to be a part of the Hubs team, and look forward to seeing you all on the 24th in Westport.
Thank you, thank you. Can you tell me exactly where it is? Janique?
Yeah, I put myself on mute since I'm driving. So it's over on Imperial Ave. It's the same location as the Westport Farmers Market. So, you know, obviously scheduling all of the walks, especially here in this county, has been interesting in COVID season. So it will be hosted there. It's right along the water, so it's really nice and really close to downtown. So that's where it will be. And as we get closer, we'll have additional information just around like parking and all that other stuff. But I mean, it's we have parking and all that stuff based on the location. But it's right there.
There's,
a little closer to town. Yeah.
will there still be like the resource fair kind of thing, you know, beforehand?
So probably not. I think that we're going to be working a little bit lighter this year. So I think that we'll learn more as some of our earlier walks get underway, and we're able to kind of see what we have the capacity to do. But I don't think anyone else is having any sort of resource fairs, kind of typical to how we've done them in the past. But I'll let you know closer to the event.
Okay, cool.
Great. Gillian, did you have any more updates for my friend Abby?
Yeah, just a couple. Thank you. It's
I
great
hope
to
you don't
hear.
mind that I added you to our agenda.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
That's
And we'll
fine.
just, every quarter, I will have you as part of our update, because you are an important entity of our region.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I love hearing everybody's updates. I'm actually so heartbroken listening to Margaret and her survey, and it just goes to show that what we do is so important in general. And all of you have been working in this field for a long time. I still feel brand new. But again, I applaud everybody that's on this group for doing what you're doing. I did attend last week. I don't know if anybody else did, but US Senator Chris Murphy did a roundtable on mental health last week that I was invited to. And you know, I think it was just to give more tools to federal and state insurance regulators. I'm reading this because I can't remember this. And I put it in my newsletter. But to give more federal and state insurance regulators to oversee compliance with mental health parity laws, which is something that he did 5 years ago. So it was so interesting. And, you know, I'm such a small fish in this big pond, and I see how much work needs to be done. Having my own personal loss, and then seeing, you know, kind of hearing there's a psychiatrist that works with kids in schools, and you know, I think we have a long way to go, but again, it's crucial what everybody is doing now. So thank you. And I just asked him for more roundtables, and to try to include young adults as well, because that's where I feel like the bread and butter is. So I did that, and again, I'm a one-man show. We have this is big for us. We have our largest fundraising event of the year. It's going to happen in 4 weeks. It's on October 16th. It's called Share Your Light. It's an event we did 2 years ago before I even had my 501c3, and we couldn't do it last year because of COVID. So we're really excited about doing this. It is at Joey C's restaurant in Stratford. The good news is we have the whole outdoor deck, so it's definitely, you know, safety first. But we're gonna have lunch, and we're gonna paint pumpkins. We are going to have a magician. We're going to have dancing with the sound check band, and Gizmo will be there amongst other therapy dogs. It's really an amazing, very special event. So, and a huge silent auction as well. Amazing, amazing volunteers. I wouldn't be able to do this without them. So again, raising money for suicide prevention awareness and for our grants. That's what we do. We give out grants to young adults who are taking action and doing something. So there is an Eventbrite link out there on our social media. Please look for it. We would love to see everybody there from the community. Tickets are $60, $30 for students. And we got some great sponsors. So I hope to see you all there. And again, we're raising money to give out grants to young adults. And our next round of grants is coming up this fall. We'll be promoting that again soon. And that's kind of the bottom line. That's what we're all about. I think that's all. I'll send that information to the hub. And you know, I do work with our post-vention group in Trumbull as well. And again, this is really important stuff, you guys. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
And if you don't mind, I know that Trumbull is a little bit more well off in the post-vention planning. Can you just highlight some of the things that the team has been talking about, or possibly maybe even just some success stories based on the plan? I know that you said that Trumbull had 2 recent deaths. So how did that planning go about?
Well, actually, there's one recent death in Trumbull, but we had several other families from the Milford community, from the Fairfield community that have had recent losses. So that came to our event this past Friday. I was away for a couple of weeks, so I missed the last meeting, I believe, that we had. But we planned early, and we really pulled together with the counseling center, the Mary Sherlock Counseling Center, with Cornelia and Robin. Again, just an amazing group that we all decided to try to pull everything together early on. So we did, and luckily we did, because we were able to, you know, share resources with our family. Sadly, you know, we asked their permission. They happened to come to our event, so we were able to physically hand them, you know, thanks again to the counseling center and EMS, hand them a basket full of information and resources. Tell them about our SOS meeting that we have once a month, our survivor of suicide meeting. That is always, Robin and Cornelia are always on that call, and me. So we were able to tell them about the resources, you know, give them some gifts. And I think we're doing pretty well. We are going to meet in person next time. I'm not really the right person that has it all together in terms of post-vention and the information, but we just know how important it is. And I think we're just waiting on a few more bios from our group, and then the package will be complete. And you know, we kind of look at it as an emergency preparedness group. And sadly, it's a good thing that we had pulled it together a little earlier. That's about all I have on that. And you know, if you want, I can give you an update for the next meeting, Giovanna.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I actually was trying to reach out to Cornelia, and just time just wasn't on my side on the last couple of weeks. I definitely like to reach out to the post-vention planning team and really talk about what documents that you do have that maybe can support the other towns in our region that are not as well off as you guys, and that's okay. You know, everyone is at different stages in their post-vention planning, but I think that may help other folks in their planning process.
Sure, absolutely. And please, you're welcome to attend our meeting, which I'm not sure, but I'll let you know when that is.
Let me know. I would love to at least be the, you know, so to speak, a fly on the wall, just to hear what you guys are doing.
Thanks. That's it for me.
Thank you, thank you. All righty, and I believe I saw Paula jump on. Let me just double check, because I don't see everyone, unfortunately.
I'm here.
Hi, Paula, how are you?
Hi, good. How are
Wonderful.
you? How's everyone?
Wonderful. Thank God it's Friday, Paula. That's all I have to say.
Amen, sister.
So I just briefly want to introduce you and just have everyone know who you are. This is Dr. Paula Gil Lopez. She's from Fairfield University. She's going to be talking about the center. Last legislative session, $2 million was allocated over 2 years to establish the Connecticut Center for School Safety and Crisis Preparation. So I had Paula come and really talk about what that is, what does that mean, what's going on, and hopefully that's something that Region 1 can reap off of in this center.
Yeah, actually, if I had known that you were going to focus, if you wanted me to focus on the center, I would have asked you if I could invite Gabe as well. And I believe that he was here, but I think he talked more about the Western Regional Crisis Team when he was here. So I came prepared. I came prepared to talk about the center a little bit, but I also wanted to talk about the committee, the statewide committee that I run. But before I do that, I just wanted to, I don't know everyone here, so I just wanted to give a little bit of background, and I'm sorry I didn't get to be here from the beginning. I was in another meeting, and I sent you a chat that I have to jump off to go to another meeting around 1:30. So I just, like Giovanna said, I'm a professor at school psychology at Fairfield U. And before that, I really cut my crisis chops in California. I was a school psychologist there. That's where I did my doctoral work. And I lived in Richmond, California. And I don't know if anyone knows Richmond, California, but it is sort of like Oakland's poorer sister city. And that was a great place to get experience. I had, we worked with gangs, it was such a diverse student population, families. I was the minority there as a white woman. And we had all kinds of crises. We had Exxon Mobil had a plant in North Richmond, and there was a spill there. So we had natural disasters. I was there for the '89 earthquake. And then we had gang violence, and we also had a murder when I was working at Richmond High School. So lots of experience in crisis. But I wasn't trained in it. But now I am, so we take all of our experience, like I've heard people here talk about experience, which is sometimes the best teacher. And I'm part of the Connecticut Association for School Psychology. And I was charged in 2018 to create a statewide committee. So the Connecticut School Safety and Crisis Response Committee. And so it took me a little while to figure out what that was going to look like. And then I met up with Gabe, and he was running the Western Regional Crisis Team. And I wanted to do something like he was doing in the Western part of the state for the entire state. So I don't know if I can share. I have a flyer here. Can I share it on the screen?
Victoria, can you give her access, please?
It's okay if I can't. I can also give you, okay, I think I have it now.
You have access now.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I just want to, this is a flyer that I actually created at, can you see this?
Yes.
Can you see like my whole screen with all the stuff on it?
It looks like mine. And I
I'm
work
trying
on
to get-
computers.
For some reason, my Zoom toolbar is not leaving my screen when I'm sharing or doing workshops, so it makes it a little cumbersome here. But this is a flyer that I put together as a means for sharing about the committee. And so I wanted just to use it, and like I said, I can send it to Giovanna and she can, if anybody's interested. But
I sent this out before.
I'm sorry.
I sent this out before, but I'll send it.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So once we got started, and I think we had our inaugural meeting of the committee, of the statewide committee, in January of 2019. And I sent out an announcement to all superintendents in the state. I try to touch base with agencies, state agencies like the Hub. I don't know how many people were actually notified. I was working with my graduate assistant at the time, and she was a little overwhelmed with internship. So, but the committee was set up, like I said, using the model of the Western Crisis Team. And so we meet, and we have been meeting since January of 2019, monthly. Initially, we were meeting in person, and one of the silver linings of COVID was that people became very comfortable meeting on Zoom. And as a statewide committee, I think that's, that was really important for us to move. We did have a Zoom in option, but it was very cumbersome. So we have been, and we are going forward, going to be meeting on Zoom. So what we do is we bring together different representatives from the schools around the state. We have, as far as New London, we have had people from Greenwich, and everything in between, north and south. And people come when they can. We meet on Wednesdays. So in the beginning, we had a lot of law enforcement people, a lot of SROs. We had security people from districts. And that's fallen off a little bit because I think that we really focus on the schools. And we're really here to, there are three things that we're trying to do as a statewide committee, is to create this support system for, every school has to have a crisis team, every building has to have a crisis team, every district has to have a crisis plan. And so those manifest in various ways, and they meet quarterly, they meet monthly, they don't meet, so we're here kind of to support those mechanisms. And we want crisis and school safety to really be in the forefront, and not just when something happens. We feel like we had one of the worst crises in the history of schools in Connecticut, and we don't have something, or didn't at the time. So our mission was to create an equitable, we have a superintendent from Hamden that joins our meetings, and he's not only the superintendent, he's also a principal at the elementary school, and he's chair of this, the crisis team. And so we want also to support and have more of an equitable distribution of resources for crisis and school safety. And that's just an example of how it's not always equitable. And just to really create this culture of preparedness by really looking at the building, the district, and then the regional and state levels. So as I said, we're emulating the Western team by having regular meetings to establish those relationships that are needed in case there are overwhelmed districts that need support, you know. And so we haven't gotten to the level of deployment to help other districts, but we have been able to consult with districts, and I've been able to support districts directly after crises. But that's sort of what we're going for. That is our goal. And so a sample meeting, we have our check-ins, trying to build that cohesion amongst members. And then we all usually have a presentation on some aspect of crisis or school safety. Last year we had Joanne Freiberg talk about restorative practices. We had Lisa Buckley talk about pet therapy. And we've had, so we've had the gamut, between the safety stuff and the crisis stuff. I just met with somebody, actually, Gabe and I just met with someone from the Department of Homeland Security who's going to come and talk in December. Oh no, in October about, this is, I guess, the new up and coming thing, the radicalization of our youth toward extreme violence. And so that's, unfortunately, that's a topic, but I think it's an important topic. And then we actually do have Abby Woods coming in December to talk about postvention planning, because I've been a part of that effort too. So that's kind of like what we were doing. And then as I said, members are invited to come and share their after action reviews with the committee so that we can learn. The whole idea is to learn, to make us more confident and capable in crises. And then also build that core so that we can help if a district is overwhelmed, that we can deploy additional aid for the district. I also want to say I'm a Prepare trainer. So I don't know if people are familiar with the Prepare model, but it's based on FEMA and Homeland Security, and it is an international model with lots of data that says that it's an evidence-based to support the not only the content but also the delivery and how it is applied in the field. But if you see right above these little, I guess they're like paper people. What are they? The paper chains of the people that we used to make when we were kids. That's the goal that Giovanna led with, that we had this goal to create a practice model for a state center that would really be sort of like a culmination of our efforts and the most important priorities that we have something that's sustainable. Because Gabe and I both, we're volunteers. This isn't our day job, but we do what we can. But we wanted something that was embedded and institutionalized in our state in the event, that could just manage full time on a paid basis, which is amazing. And we wanted that also for equity, because we know that we have, this is probably the most disparate resourced state in the country in terms of the haves and the have-nots, and that goes with the schools as well. And so we wanted a system where everyone would be able to get support and training. And then the last thing we wanted to do with the state is to have it coordinate, because we have so many, and I could see already that you have a number of attendees here today that are from, community agencies, and then we have state departments, and then we have schools, and, so that this center is going to sort of provide an umbrella for the coordination and the collaboration all related crisis and safety services and efforts across Connecticut. And the focus is on the public schools, right? And we want, you know, as much as we can, early intervention, because we know that that's what works. But in the event that, as we know, will always happen, we have crises outside of that, that we are prepared, you know, that people know what to do. The size of the response matches the size of the crisis, because that's sometimes where you can run into problems. So anyway, did somebody have a question? No? I guess maybe that was my son or something. So anyway, Gabe and I, for the last 2 years, we have been sort of doing a little dog and pony show, promoting what we already do, and then trying to promote the idea of the state center. And we've done that with many elected officials. I saw that Kristen, I don't know if she's still here, Kristen McCarthy Vahey, we've met with her, lots and lots of elected officials, and lots of agency people and committee people, and much to our, I don't know, shock and awe, maybe, in this last legislative session, we were allotted $2 million to establish this center over the next 2 years, which was amazing. I know that Gabe had been talking shortly before he met me with Senator Kushner, and he feels like we still don't really know. We still don't really know how all the pieces fell into place. But anyway, this statewide center is, I'm gonna stop sharing now so I can see everybody. This statewide center is going to be housed at WestConn, and the personnel are going to include, and we're just about to start searching for the executive director. And there will be an assistant director, a clerical person, and then 3 people. We wanted 6, but we only had money enough for 3, who will be housed in the field, and they'll have offices at the RESCs. So there are going to be 2 RESCs that kind of team up, and the field people will be housed at one of those 2 RESCs in an office. And they will hold monthly meetings similar to what Gabe does in the western part of the state, and that I do for the whole state. But they will be able to build those relationships and build those connections, because it will be more of a regional meeting, that they'll come together and they'll have the same kind of training. And then the center, in addition to overseeing those efforts in the field, the center will be liaising with community agencies and statewide agencies, and, you know, DEMIS and EPS and all of those. So that's the coordination part. You know, and early on, when we started meeting with people, we made a real point to say, we're all on the same team. You know, we have different levels of where we may intersect, but we're all on the same team, and we're all here to protect kids and their families, right? So in the best way possible. And so, you know, I see a lot of overlap, but I don't see anyone's toes getting stepped on. And this center will have, you know, it's focusing on schools, but it will have as one of the goals, as one of the charges, to maintain that relationship, and collaboration and coordination. And so, for instance, we're thinking that, you know, there will be monthly training at each of the 3 field offices, but then we'll also have maybe an institute, or you know, we always think of the summer institute, where we have prepare training, and then we have maybe Dewey Cornell come in, and, you know, whoever, but that will be for the whole state. And our other, this speaks to the equitable nature of this proposal and now this reality, is that we're providing the training at low to no cost. And that would include the Summer Institute, where we can just bring people together from, law enforcement and community and state and all different places to have those conversations, to build those collaborations, so that if the need arises, we know each other's faces, and we know, the incident command system can be overlaid, however big or small the crisis is, if it spills out over, the walls or the bounds of the districts. We have people that we know and we trust and we've met and we've worked with and we've discussed. And then the last thing that the center will do is collect data on the efforts. Data on the incidents, the crisis incidents in schools, and juxtapose that with the community, and then and have us be able to supply the needs of the state based on, in part, the data. But then also the executive director will be busy trying to fund their position past 2 years. So we have a number of people who have expressed interest in that position. But the position announcement hasn't gone out yet. And I wonder if people will, say, whoa, it's, but it is competitive, it is a competitive salary. So we're hoping to get people, and we're so excited about it because, as I said, sustainability is one of our big things. And as you all know, I heard you talking about the the mobile crisis going to 24/7. And yeah, that's so great. And that's the way it should be. But how does that happen? The sustainability part is huge. So anyway, so I'll stop and answer questions that people may have. I'll just say one more thing. We're expecting that the center could be up and running by January. So at that time, I'm thinking that the statewide committee would be subsumed under the center, and then the people on that committee, on my committee, will then filter into the regional meetings in the fields at the RESCs. So that way it will be more sustainable, since somebody's going to be getting paid full time, to do this work, which is the way it should be, Okay. Any questions? I know it's Friday afternoon.
Well, I thank you for taking your time. I know we've been trying to connect for, I don't know how many months now.
Yeah, since last spring. Yeah.
Yes. So I thank you for joining us and really talking about the committee and the center. And I, for one, am really excited because I attend Gabriel's meetings as well. And I always say we should have one in each of the regions. And now that is happening, it's wonderful. And I look forward to future collaborations with that regional person, whoever that person is. So one question I do have is you mentioned 3 people that will be in the regions. Do you know where in the state of Connecticut they will be?
We only know that CES and Ed Advance, they said that they will house somebody, and it's going to be in their new building in Bethel. I don't know if you guys know about that. They bought a building in Bethel. I'm going to tour it next week. So it looks beautiful from the Zillow pictures, which is all I've seen so far. But so I do know, and that's probably going to be the Western region they're going to take over. I don't know if you know that Gabe's leaving WestCon. Yeah. So, and so just in time, right? Because we talk about sustainability, and had this not come to fruition, it would have been hard for him to maintain you know, so that's probably going to be the western part of the state that location in Bethel will take over, and that field person will be set there. And then the other two places where they're still to be determined. And part of it is that we really want to bring the executive director in on making these decisions, like hiring his assistant and his clerical person, and then these people. So yeah, so that's the first priority, is get that person in place. And then we're hoping that they're going to be really energetic and enthusiastic. Those are two on the top of our interview criteria. Lots of energy.
Yes. Wonderful. So I hope that, you know, we'll still be in contact, and maybe in March we can have you come back and kind of just update what is happening with the committee and the center and things like that.
Sure. I'd love to. And I'd love to attend your meetings too, if I can.
Excellent.
Yeah, Fridays are usually good, but yeah, who knows?
Exactly. I know I have to be, and Victoria has to be here. Everybody else doesn't have to be here, but we love to see everyone's faces. So anytime, it is recorded. So if at any time you can't show up, it is recorded for you to just review. So
Great.
does anybody have any other questions? I know she has a 1:30.
Well, and I'll just put my well, I know that you have my flyer, but I'll also, before I leave, I'll put my email in the chat. If you ever, you know, have any questions or want to attend the committee, I think it's such a great place to bring the agencies and the school people together, because it is, you know, it's a matter of, especially when you're in a crisis, you want the trust and the relationship to already be intact, because that's going to really optimize your efforts. So, all right, well, TGIF, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
I don't know if I could spend $2 million in 2 years. Or maybe I could. I don't know. Victoria, if you don't mind just pulling up the agenda again. Okay. So we're briefly going to talk just about hub updates, things like that. Victoria and I have a hopefully brief update on what we have been doing and what we plan to do. And I will also highlight a new initiative that we have. Alrighty. I'm pushing the arrow, Victoria, as I'm like, wait. So we're briefly going to talk about the regional priority report, the FCCF grant, and the DEMIS and DCF grant that the hub now holds. And I'll talk about the deliverables and follow-up. So as everyone knows, every 2 years, DEMIS tasks the RBHAOs to complete a regional priority report needs assessment. We completed one in this past June 2021, and we'll briefly talk about what those findings were. But really, the purpose of the report is to really inform DEMIS in what needs, gaps, barriers do we have in our region. Margaret and I used to say we like to tell the story of Region 1 and what that is. You can use this priority report for leveraging funding. We tend to do that as well. respond to public data needs. We also inform not only our region, but DEMIS, what recommendations do we have based on focus groups and interviews that we've had with with our region throughout the years.
Okay,
So part of, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Do you want to go?
No, I meant to say, a part of the priority process is that we identify different key stakeholders in our community to come up with a data committee. And part of that data committee, we go through what those priority rankings are. Your turn. Tag.
So these are just the priority rankings that we found. So obviously you guys can all read, but 1 was mental health, 2 was suicide, and 3 was alcohol. And then we also just put the 2019 rankings, so the rankings from the previous kind of survey there as well. So these are kind of the highlights. I'm going to go into more depth on mental health and suicide when we pull up the infographics in the next slides. But alcohol, I'm not going to go in as in depth just because it doesn't really relate to Regional Suicide Advisory Board or anything like that. But just a couple key points. We saw over 100% increase in alcohol retail sales during this time. Also, these kind of organizations were deemed as like essential workers. So, and we do have an infographic on this, but it's just not included in this presentation just because of the connection. Doesn't really connect to this, but if anybody wants it, we can send it to you, and it's also available on our website as well. But I'm just going to briefly go into a little more detail. So for suicide, here is our infographic. So it's basically a compilation of all of the key or major findings of the priority report. So research showed that there was a decrease in the suicides in 2020, but in our region, Southwest Connecticut, 13 out of the 14 towns did unfortunately experience a loss from suicide. And then we have the highest rates, that's Stamford with 12, Norwalk with 8, Bridgeport with 5. And we also saw a huge number of people who unfortunately lost their job due to COVID or the pandemic, and that is a known risk factor for suicide. And then the next slide is the mental health infographic. So they were kind of good and bad with telehealth. One of the biggest things was people could see therapists or providers via telehealth. Obviously, there are drawbacks to that as well. So there were technology barriers, so people didn't have the access to the technology, didn't know how to use the technology, or just didn't have an interest in seeing their providers via telehealth. We did create like a phone flyer with information on phone plans, but also data plans to kind of inform people of what their options were for data or kind of like internet connection so they could attend those telehealth. And then in terms of COVID, we saw an increase in all mental health related symptoms during this time. We saw a huge increase in anxiety. You're shaking your head, Giovanna, am I saying? Okay, sorry, sorry, I thought I was messing up. You got me all stressed out. Sorry. And then, so we saw an increase in anxiety, and we are also seeing that currently as well with kind of people returning back to somewhat normal in-person events or school, jobs, what have you. And we also see a huge rise in PTSD, and that is specifically not only, but we did see it in EMS. Oh, sorry. So I'll talk about that a little later with the ASSIST training and QPR trainings, but that were under the FCCF grant. So I'll get into that a little later as well. We also just have our suicide crisis resources. So these we are constantly updating. And as soon as they are updated, we send them out via our newsletter. We update it on our website, and we also post it on social media. So we recognize that as the hub, we are basically the hub for resources. So we definitely make it a priority to continue to update this or add to it as different groups or resources become available.
Thank you. So what do we do with the findings? We use these findings to inform our recommendations. Again, the work that we do, we couldn't do without you and all other stakeholders in our community. So again, we want to thank you for just allowing us to be part of your community and being able to really drive the work that we do. So part of the recommendations for mental health and suicide under prevention, and again, in our report, the report's about 70-page long. If you, like Danique, is a reader, you would love this report and data, because Danique's also a data lover. I recommend that you read it. Otherwise, we do have our infographics that really take that information from our epidemiological profiles, as you saw with the suicide and mental health. But these recommendations we do give to DEMIS, and they, in my meetings with them, I have been noticing that they have been referencing the RBHAO's recommendations. So they are reading these reports, and they are hopefully trying to focus their efforts on completing them. So the recommendation for prevention under mental health and suicide is to provide more mental health and QPR trainings for educators. And I heard a lot of what you all are doing is this, right? So this is fantastic. Coordinate and implement more awareness campaigns focusing on stigma reduction and conversations around suicide. We're seeing a lot more of that happening through social media. Encourage towns to create a postvention planning team. I believe 13 out of our 14 towns are already established a postvention planning team, so that's been great. Treatment recommendations is really to support the regional efforts to address timely access to treatment. This is still a problem in our region, as all of you are aware. For anyone that is looking to go into treatment, it takes time. There are not enough beds for everyone who is having a mental health crisis. Again, like I said, with the mental health part, we do have the action line, which is 24/7, but that's just not enough. Mobile crisis is eventually going to be 24/7, but the acting on providing support to the providers is really stressful at this point. Again, with telehealth, Victoria mentioned the good and bad about that, and hopefully, and DEMIS now has Microsoft Teams, which has been easier for many of us to, instead of going to in-person meetings, they're having it online, which has been great. But again, Microsoft Teams, yet again, they chose something that none of us rarely use, right? Of course, but just a blessing in itself that they have now laptops and able to get online. Expand and offer services and resources such as bed availability and crisis mobile lines during late night hours and weekends, to be continued. They're starting to talk about more of expansion. Recovery, maintaining use, and these are again recommendations that we provided in our report. Maintaining use of telehealth, as it has proved helpful in connecting with individuals and providers. That again, it has been extended for another couple of weeks. So that's been great, but hopefully we'll be able to continue. Create more efforts towards subgroups and underserved populations in awareness, treatment, and education. Just like Margaret was saying earlier about the data that she got from Norwalk, now focusing more effort on LGBTQ populations, extremely important. September events. So the hub has been really busy trying to keep track of what all of you are doing. So Victoria created that lovely one-page flyer on the right, really just compiling all of the events that have been happening in our region when it comes to suicide and recovery.
Okay, so I'm also just going to briefly talk about the FCCF grant, which is the Fairfield County Community Foundation grant. Also shout out to Margaret for this as well. So basically, for those of you who may not know what it is, it's a grant that basically we use to target EMS individuals because we saw that there was a significant impact on first responders in terms of their mental health. But because a portion of EMS are volunteer or part-time, their training and support is limited. So for those individuals, as well as EMS in general, we wanted to kind of fill that gap. And we did so by offering question, persuade, refer, QPR trainings, as well as the applied suicide intervention skills training. And then we just kind of have the how many people we trained as well. So we had 9 EMS for the assist training, and then 46 people for QPR, and 14 of whom were EMS. And then kind of I already touched on why this is important, but we, again, so kind of just like some basic outlines of ASSIST. It's a 2-day intensive training. It is in person still. So it's a full day training. Due to kind of social distancing in the ratio of trainer to trainees that's needed, the trainings right now are limited to 15 individuals for a 2-trainer session. And then I also just have some key learning objectives that people will kind of walk away with once they complete this training, but super helpful for everyone, but specifically this EMS population. So this is actually exciting news. We're also offering a upcoming ASSIST training. We're offering a second ASSIST training. We had a lot of really great positive feedback from the first training we held, which was in June. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that was in June. And there were also, we heard a considerable number of EMS who were interested and wanted to take a training should we offer another one. So because of the need and the feedback, we decided to go forward. So we are offering a second ASSIST training. So it is September 29th and 30th. So the end of this month, it's all day training. Again, the target audience is EMS, but specifically those who are either a manager or supervisor, because the hope is that they can kind of take these skills and what they learn and teach or inform others on their team or who might be below them. And again, the hope is that all EMS are from Region 1. We also still have a few slots open as well. So I don't know if you guys have any connections to EMS, but if you do, or if you know somebody who might be interested, you can contact me or the info email, because obviously we want to get every seat filled for this.
We've also extended it to dispatchers as well, because they too need this training as well. Yes, Margaret, not all towns have been very responsive to the QPR and ASSIST training. So at this point, this grant has been completed. We sent our final work plan back in June, in the outcomes. It was just because we're doing the second ASSIST because we didn't spend all of the money that we received. And I want to make sure that instead of reallocating it into budget, that I put it back out into the community and make it and focus on what it was intended to do. Again, COVID messed things up, and with ASSIST, you can't have a full room of attendees. So we had to really, it's been a pain in the tush trying to coordinate this. I know, thankfully, Victoria hasn't left me yet, but it's been interesting. So not every town is represented and has been ASSIST trained. Alrighty, so we are in our final conversation with DCF and DEMIS. They are now going to be contracting with us in the work that we have been doing for the past couple of years. So this has been great. There are a couple of additions that we haven't been doing that I want to just highlight, but just so you know, the contract period will start October 21st. It's an 18-month contract to March 2023. DEMIS and DCF are using their block dollars to support this initiative. And hopefully, after March 2023, DCF is looking to put the RBHAOs into their budget so that then we will get funded yearly in the suicide work that we are doing. So let's cross our fingers that they will be able to sustain what we're doing. But really, it is the dollars will be for hosting 4 quarterly regional suicide advisory board meetings, and that's just minimum. If we decided we wanted to have a subcommittee, we can definitely do that. Support, of course, the CTSAB efforts and goals and objectives that come out of the Suicide Prevention Plan 2025. Building capacity, readiness, and suicide for suicide prevention, intervention, and response efforts, including for everyone, my role as a RBHAO is I receive any suicide that occurs in our community under the age of 18. I typically get the email from Faith saying that there was a suicide, and to really send out an email supporting leadership in that town on best practices, resources. If they need me to need me to attend any type of meetings, I can do that. So we will continue to do that, as well as possibly even doing more if you'd like. Again, I try to stay in my lane, and I know that certain towns like to do certain things their way and not have any outsiders, and that's totally fine. But just know that I can be, Victoria and I can be more of a support to the towns when there is a suicide. DEMIS, we are to use, this is something that we have been doing, but they now just have it in writing that the DEMIS funded RBHAO priority report to identify suicide prevention and response gaps we will be using as part of our work plan to really focus our efforts on that. Upon notification, like I said, about the contractor will do, me just reaching out to whoever it is. And that's something that I'd like to talk about too, because right now, say, God forbid something happens, but say there was a death by suicide in Westport, I would be reaching out to not only the LPC Margaret, but also to town services, to the health department, potentially to the state representative or to the mayor of the town, just to say, my apologies, here goes some best practices, resources. Let me include the superintendent as well. So I would be able to send out that email to everyone in hopes that the LPC would be the driver in making sure that the town adheres to the best practices. So the LPC and I would be able to work a little closer now than ever before. And again, if you choose to want us to be there, okay? We are to host suicide prevention gatekeeper training and post-prevention community trainings. That is something that we will be doing on a consecutive basis. I haven't decided yet, but I'm hoping that that's something the members here will be able to help and support us in. We're looking to do possibly maybe twice a month a QPR Talk Save Live training. Moving forward, so that there is that consistent training piece of it. And then I promote the state suicide prevention website, as well as Gizmo and the 988. Let me just go back. Any questions on this? Pretty for, it's direct. This is what we're going to be doing. Okay. Some of the projects that we have been doing, the most recent addition, I will say, is we just wrapped a Stanford bus with the Live Loud and One Word campaign information with the Suicide Lifeline number. So that's something that just July 22nd, the bus started going around. So you'll see it in Norwalk, in Darien, in New Canaan, in Greenwich, Stanford, and it also will be going to Westchester. So that's been the newest project for us.
Okay, so there are a few upcoming events. I kind of broke it down by week, then the rest of this month and the next month. Next week, we have 2 additional QPR trainings. So September 21st, which is Tuesday from 11 to 12:30. Margaret is leading that one. And then we have that Friday, the 24th is the second one from 10 to 11:30. On September 21st, there's also a Talk Saves Lives, a TSL training, which will be led by me. So apologies to anybody who has to attend and listen to me more. And then for the rest of this month, we have a few other events. So like I mentioned, that assist training, but that's basically just for EMS. And then we also have Wheeler Clinics Change the Script van, which will be coming to do Narcan training, sorry. So there'll be in-person on-site trainings. We have 4 locations that we are going to be going to. And then for next month, I believe Danique definitely mentioned this, but we have the AFSP Out of the Darkness Walk, which is on the 24th in Westport. And then we sent out the flyer this morning, but we have the Southwest Prevention Team. So if anybody wants to sign up, come walk. And then at the bottom of this slide, we just have the link for the calendar, which has all of these events as well as additional events that aren't necessarily related to suicide prevention, but still great events. And then for next steps, so we'll be sending out in the follow-up email the priority report, this PowerPoint, minutes from this meeting. I believe Danique mentioned more information on AFSP that she would send us that we can also include in the follow-up. As always, subscribe to our newsletter or just look at our website. It has great stuff. And then we also just want to hear your thoughts about further collaborations, or conversely, or additionally, just like certain speakers you guys may want to hear or have, or just different topics you would maybe potentially want to focus on.
All right, Victoria, if you don't mind, stop sharing for me. Perfect, thank you. So with all that said, I really like to talk the last few minutes just about if there's any speakers that you are looking, that you would like us to reach out to have speak at one of our advisory board meetings or a lunch and learn, please let us know. We would be happy to do the legwork to get them to our region. I know I will be reaching out to some folks just to get at least, I don't want you guys to hear me talk all the time. I talk enough. So I would love to bring more education knowledge to our meetings with different people, just with their different experiences. So anyone, please just let us know. But to talk about the regional needs and the new initiative that DEMIS and DCF have with us, I'd like to hear who would like to be part of this work plan with Victoria and I. I don't mind putting out a work plan and what I'm going to do, but you all are doing so many other things that I would love to try to see if we can collaborate on. does anybody want to be part of the work plan, just to see what, based on the recommendations that we do have in the suicide prevention plan for 2025 through CTSAB, what we're going to compile? Or do you trust me all to just come up with it?
Margaret said that her mic stopped, but she would love to be regional collab on suicide prevention in the LGBTQ population. And then Danique also said that she would be happy to be part of the work group.
The one thing I don't want to do is, you know, duplicate efforts, right? One thing that we know none of us want to do. So I would love to just hear what the collaboration would be, you know, for us to just move forward. And if the hub's going to do quarterly, monthly QPR trainings, that means you could send, you know, your organizations to us, right? We are happy to be able to support you all in doing that. We have been doing that this whole month, just having various organizations reaching out to us. We just trained St. Vincent's Nurses Nursing Parish just I believe it was last week, and about 40 people we trained in QPR and Narcan for that. So we could collaborate where, you know, we can merge our work plans. So I will, for anyone that would like or interested in doing that, I see you in the chat box. I'll send out a separate email just to have a date on our calendar within the next week. I'd like to get this work plan up and running so that October 1st, where we already know what we're planning on doing and you know what we're going to be doing. Yes. Okay. Anything else? Who wants to see Mateo? All righty. Well, Danique put her hand up. Me. All right. Well, for those that do need to go, thank you so much for attending. I really appreciate it. And if you need anything, please let us know.